Good morning. I'm Berks County Commissioner Christian Leinbach, and I want to welcome you to our Berks County Board of Commissioners meeting for Thursday, October the 29th. If you're joining us today, there are a number of ways you can be watching. We're live on BCTV. We're also live on MS Teams Live, Facebook Live, and YouTube Live. If you would like to make a comment, you can do so by going into the platform comment, or in MS Teams, it's the Q&A area to make a comment. Your comment it must include your first and last name, as well as the municipality where you reside. You are limited to one comment unless you have a specific comment on a specific agenda item. We do that at the beginning of the agenda and then general comments at the end. If you're with the media, as always, just give us your name and the media you represent. As always, we will begin the meeting with a moment of silence, followed by a pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. As we begin each of our meetings, I'm going to turn the program over to Brian Gottschall. He is our director of the Berks County Department of Emergency Services, and he is the lead for the Berks County COVID-19 leadership team, and he is going to provide the latest data on the COVID-19 stats for Berks County. Brian Gottschall.
Good morning, commissioners. Thank you very much. As you said, we're going to be taking a look at our COVID stats for the week. This is dated today's date. Reminder for everyone that our state dashboard stats that we look at are based on their most recent publication, which in this case would be last Friday. All of our indicators are showing an upward trend, with the exception of the hospital emergency department visits, which are remaining relatively flat, which is I guess good news. Although the emergency department visits remaining flat, while the hospital census and ventilator use going up isn't all that reassuring. Looking a little bit closer at Berks County numbers, we see a very large spike in our orange testing line over the last couple weeks, due in large part to our community testing site that was established at the Fightin' Phil's First Energy Stadium. I do want to draw the public's attention to our blue case count line. These are our 14-day smooth case counts, and we see that line is continuing to move in an upward trend. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more in a kind of a new slide that I'm bringing to the table today. I've gotten rid of some data points that I think we were maybe spending a little too much time on, and added a couple new ones that I'd like to take a look at. We've looked at this first test positivity before, and reiterating that these are folks in the community who are generally receiving their first COVID test or having a change in status, not people who are getting serial testing in custodial care facilities. The one difference on this slide is that in the past, I had been really only looking at kind of July to date. And I did that because I wanted to focus on where we were at in the timeline today. And like with any audio visual, the more you show, the less detail you see, because you're trying to show more information. I've now gone back and I've shown this chart all the way back to the beginning of the COVID event. And I felt that was important because I think it helps to show where we were, where we ended up briefly, and where we're headed back to today. You'll note that the chart starts rather abruptly in the middle of April. And that's because prior to that, although we had case counts, we didn't have any test count numbers. The state was not publishing those. So because we only have half of a fraction, we can't have a percent positivity without having the case count. So that's why the chart starts kind of abruptly there. But again, as we get to the right-hand side of the chart with the more current data, you see that our percent positivity is going up alarmingly. The other thing that we're looking at now is case rate. And again, much like the percent positivity chart, I brought this chart back to looking all the way to the beginning of the COVID event, back to when we had 0 cases. And this data we do have every single day throughout the COVID event. And I think it again helps to kind of dramatically illustrate where our case rate is headed versus where our case rate was back in the spring. I do want to mention one thing. While I don't want to show a chart and then say, but ignore the chart because I'm going to give you information that makes it invalid, I do want to be honest and point out all of the possible data confounds. At face value, we would look at this chart and say, well, we're right back where we were in the spring. As far as our daily case rate per 100,000 of population, we're effectively almost right where we were back at the peak. The one thing we have to remember is because we weren't doing as much testing back in the spring, anywhere close to the testing, in fact, that we're doing now, the likelihood is that back in the spring, we were missing a lot of cases that were we doing more testing, we would have identified. So that does create a degree of artificiality to this graphic in that one would imagine that if our testing volume was the same in the spring as it is today, our peak case counts in the spring would have been significantly higher than they actually were identified at. So while I want to be honest and present that confound in the data, I don't want that to dissuade anyone from looking at this chart and seeing a very steep increase in our case count numbers and recognizing that we are really heading back to a case rate similar to where we were in the spring as far as the spread of the disease through the community. The good news side of that is that our hospitals continue to remain in good shape despite our case count going up. Our hospitals are busy. I spoke with some of the folks from our local hospitals, and they're busy as they always get around this time of year as we get fall and winter illnesses, helping to increase our hospital censuses. Again, the real concern here is that when our hospitals have their normal fall, wintertime kind of flu event, they're already very busy. If we would take a COVID problem and add that on top of that, it really confounds that and brings the hospitals much more closer to the point of having a crisis. And it is important to realize folks who would say that back in the spring, it might have been bad, but the hospitals never broke. They were able to do what they had to do. And that's true. That's great. We have very strong acute care institutions in our county. But we also have to remember that in the spring, no matter how bad the COVID situation was, we did not have the flu situation on top of that. We were at the very tail end of the flu season, and it was just about gone from our community by the time the COVID problem started coming about. So as people make value judgments and decide how to lead their lives and conduct themselves and understand the risk to themselves, their family, and the community as a whole, hopefully they keep those things in mind and they don't become artificially too artificially at ease over the fact that we did this once in the spring and we were able to make it through without the system breaking. Again, looking at our PA County comparison snapshot, not going to spend a lot of time here because the fact of the matter is it's not moving dramatically. We are holding our own in all the 3 categories we look at of tests administered per capita, cases per capita, and deaths per capita. What we want to do is flip those numbers. We want to be lower than 9 in everything that's good and higher than 9. I'm sorry, let me try that again. Lower than 9 in everything, yes, in everything that is good and higher than 9 in everything that is bad. In essence, we don't want to get at we're 9th in population, so we should be 9th in everything else. We want to do better than we would be reasonably expected to do given our population. Again, just a thanks to our partners at DOH and the Fight and Fills for helping us to work through the testing at the stadium. In the 10 days that the testing was done, we did administer 3,464 tests, and I guess more correctly, we drew 3,464 samples and sent them to the labs to be tested. Here's a breakdown of the days. On 2 of the days, October 15th and 16th, we did hit the maximum number of possible tests that they were able to handle on a given day. We see towards the end, the community interest did fall off a bit and we were down under kind of the sub 300 numbers. you know, it is what it is. We would have liked to have gotten as many people through that process as we could, but I think our numbers were very good, and the Department of Health and the contractor and the conversations we had were impressed with our community turnout. We want to look very quickly at a slide here, demographic group by age of the community test site. And I really want to draw the public's attention to our 13 to 49-year-old numbers. And in the right-hand column over here, we see the percentage of the tests that were drawn that were positive. And remember that this was a cross-sectional representation of our community. Nobody had to come here. People had their choice. Nobody had to have symptoms. Nobody had to have a doctor's prescription. So it really is just a representative cross-section of our community. And you'll see that our percent positivity in those younger age groups was significantly high. So that's a fair indication that we do have the disease spreading in our community among school and younger adults, in addition to our concerned older adult population. Again, the good news side, we're not seeing those people filling up our hospitals. We're not seeing a lot of fatalities or even significant morbidity among those younger age groups. But every person who gets the disease is a potential vector to somebody who could be significantly impacted by the disease. And that's the reason that we're all trying to pull together as a community and make sure that we're doing everything that we reasonably can in order to mitigate the spread of the virus. So back to you, Commissioner.
Thank you very much, Brian. I appreciate you adding that additional detail from the recent Department of Health of Pennsylvania mobile testing. Those numbers were, to me at least, surprising. Looking at the positivity rate in those younger age groups, and it does explain why we see the growth in case count. A lot of these folks, in fact, probably a majority, were asymptomatic, just wanted to come in and be tested. But thank you for the updated data. We appreciate your work. Commissioner Kevin Barnhart, who chairs our elections board, has asked for an opportunity to give an update on elections. And so we'll recognize Commissioner Barnhart at this time.
Thank you, Commissioner Leinbach. I just want to briefly review some slides we had on our media event yesterday and some variations as we move forward. We are 5 days out from the general election, and we are strongly encouraging people to drop their mail-in ballots at the 2 drop locations. Don't expect the mail service, if you drop it in the mail today, to get here in ample time. So again, we have 296 registered voters, and you can see the breakdown. Democrats 118,400, Republican 110,430. And then mail-in and absentee ballots to date. If you can slide it up just a little bit. If not, we have, Keystone my sheet. We've received applications of mail-ins and absentees of 82,967. And we have returned thus far 55,989. And that's tracking at about 67.5%. If we go back to the June primary, we had 47,777 requests with an actual return of all paper ballots, including overseas and military, of 39,349. So that number was 82%. So we have roughly 15+% to go yet between now and Tuesday. Again, the postmarked ballots on Tuesday, if they arrive here by Friday, will still be counted, but recognizing they will be held off until the canvassing Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. What we will be counting on Tuesday during the day at the DoubleTree will be those in hand, obviously, and as they come in that day, the Department of State has required us to hold back on those until Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Our expectation is to have the overwhelming majority of the mail-in ballots completed, scanned in on election day. We're also not permitted to upload those to the data system until the polls close. So if anyone's looking for mail-in ballot returns at 5 or 6 o'clock, That's not going to happen. They're going to be probably, in theory, being uploaded as we're getting our results back from the 202 polls. Next slide, please. Again, I want to remind everyone of our 2 Dropbox locations here at the Berks County Services Center, 633 Court Street, main entrance off of Reed Street, and the Berks County Agriculture Center, 1238 County Welfare Road in Leesport. They've been well used over the last few weeks. We are now into Thursday, so tonight it's open till 7 p.m. and Friday till 7 p.m., 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. So that gives people that can't get there during normal business hours to come out until 7 p.m. We are closed Saturday because we still have continuing poll worker interpreter training, as well as distributing product to 202 judges of elections, as well as some work that still continues to happen in election services. And Sunday is a breather day. Our people have been working literally 12 hours a day for 6 to 7 days, and we need them refreshed to get back to work on Monday. So the boxes again open up on Monday, November 2nd from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and on Tuesday, Election Day, November 3rd, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. So there is more than ample opportunity to get your ballots in over the next few days. If you have that ballot on your coffee table, make sure you get it into the drop boxes. Next slide, please. And again, as a reminder, we receive calls from people that say you must require people to wear masks. Again, we can't require people to wear a mask. We said this in the primer, we're going to say it again. We strongly encourage people to wear masks when they go out to vote, just like you go out your front door and you're in contact with people, put your mask on. So practice distancing at least 6 feet at the polls. If you're standing outside, please be respectful of other people. Wear your mask, bring your hand sanitizer along. We will have hand sanitizer available. We will be wiping down the screens with 70% alcohol wipes, as well as have Q-tips and gloves available if people choose to tap the screen with a Q-tip and a glove. So every measure has been taken by the county and its poll workers to make this happen. And we just want to make sure people don't get hysterical when they're out there. There will be lines. We discussed this yesterday that although we're in the neighborhood of 80,000 mail-in ballots, we have 272,000 registered voters. So there's still at least 100,000 plus people out there, maybe 110, 120,000 people who will be voting in person. Last but not least, as many people don't stay on for the 11 o'clock election board meeting, we have a meeting today to approve the appointment of judges of elections, majority inspectors, minority inspectors, machine inspectors, clerks, and interpreters for the November 3rd election. And I just want to point out that we have about 1,200 poll workers that work the primary and the general election. We're going to be approving 867 appointments, 867 out of 1,200. That means we have an awful lot of turnover. These positions are actually elected positions. So over a period of time, people either move, pass away, or no longer can do the work. I want to say this also because we had at least 500 plus people who volunteered to step forward to help at the polls. We hear you. We want to keep you on a database. We will be contacting you early next year because, again, we have a 10 to 20% turnover each year for poll workers, and it's always incumbent upon us to keep the polls manned by at least 5 to 6 people per poll. So don't be disheartened. If we didn't utilize you this year, there'll be another election cycle next year. We'll certainly reach out and contact you because it takes, again, at least 1,200 people to pull off these elections. And another reminder, the 202 polls will be open. We have not reduced polls. We have had to move about 18 polls to other locations in the county. So there should be ample opportunity for people who want to vote in person to be there. But just to be friendly and courteous to the people that are in line, let's try to be the Berks Countyans we know and love and do your civic duty in a proper decorum that we expect of our citizens. Thank you, Commissioner Leinbach. I'm turning it back to you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Barnhart, for the important update on elections and preparation of the general election next Tuesday. Let's continue with our agenda. Are there any additions or corrections for the October 22nd Commissioner meeting minutes? Hearing none, the minutes will stand approved as presented. We did have 3 executive sessions. The first was on October 22nd, and all of them dealt with the same thing, personnel and litigation. So we had one on October 22nd, one on October 23rd, and one on October 27th. Jesse, is there any public comment on specific agenda items?
No, Commissioner, there are not.
Thank you very much. Moving to the agenda, number 1, authorizing under that, Budget Department, adopt a resolution authorizing 2020 budget transfers in the amount of $22,847 and 2020 appropriations in the amount of $738,896 per listing dated October 26th of 2020. We have one item under Human Resources, authorize the appointment of Jamie Silverthorne to Mechanical Manager, Facilities and Operations. We have one item under Commissioner Barnhart, adopt a resolution authorizing the appointment of David Turner, Reading, PA, to the Berks County Planning Commission for a 4-year term ending on December 31st of 2024. And I want to recognize Commissioner Barnhart for a comment.
Thank you, Commissioner Leinbach. I just want to note that David Turner will be replacing Barry Schlauch, who served 12 years as a Planning Commission member and did a tremendous job, and his services to be commended. Again, he chose not to be reappointed, so I reached out to David Turner and was more than happy to oblige us. So I want to thank Barry Schlauch for his service. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. There are a number of items listed under my name. Item A, adopt a resolution authorizing the reappointment of John Bastick, Reading, PA, to the Berks County Mental Health Developmental Disabilities Board for a 3-year term expiring December 31st of 2023. Item B, adopt a resolution authorizing the reappointment of Craig Lutz, Wernersville, Pennsylvania, to the Reading Regional Airport Authority for a 5-year term expiring December 31st of 2025. Item C, adopt a resolution authorizing the reappointment of Aaron Brown, Birdsboro, Pennsylvania, to the Berks County Park and Rec Board for a 4-year term expiring December 31st of 2024. Item D, adopt a resolution authorizing the reappointment of Mike Gumbar, Wyomissing, PA, to the Berks County Solid Waste Authority for a 5-year term expiring December 31st of 2025. Item E, adopt a resolution authorizing the appointment of Chris Spohn, Reading, PA, to the Berks County Planning Commission for a 4-year term expiring December 31st of 2024. We have several items listed under the commissioners. Item A, adopt a resolution ratifying, confirming, and approving the chair to execute the CTCL grant disbursement agreement in the amount of $470,929.37 for planning and operationalizing safety and secure election administration in Berks County in 2020. And once again, I would like to recognize Commissioner Kevin Barnhart.
Thank you, Commissioner Leinbach. I think this is very significant to note that several weeks ago we received a notice from Center for Tech and Civic Life that there were $250 million available throughout the United States for safe voting purposes. So our legal staff, I want to thank them for applying. We put in an application and estimated our expenditures, and that totaled up to about $470,000. We were pleased to find out about 2 weeks ago we were accepted at $470,929.37. So that money will definitely be used and come in handy. And I did make this comment, I believe, last week, that simply the cost of the audio and video of the pre-canvassing canvassing process through BCTV and their partners in other communities to pull this together, utilizing closed circuit recording and also pulling together staff is going to be in the neighborhood of $100,000. So when you look at $470,000, say that's a lot of money. It gets eaten up real fast when you're trying to do the best you can and really have a safe and secure election. So again, I want to thank the Center for Tech and Civic Life for supporting Berks County in our endeavor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Item B, adopt a resolution authorizing the chair to execute a letter of authorization to Verizon to allow Pennsylvania Emergency Management Agency and mission critical partners or a selected NG 911 vendor agent to facilitate the transition to NG 911 services by identifying existing Berks County legacy 911 services costs, automatic location identification records, and managing associated termination of legacy 911 communication services with county approvals. And I just thought of this. I see Brian Gottschall is on. Brian, if you're listening in, could you explain to the public what this is all about? Because it's a pretty significant transition.
Commissioner, can you hear me?
Yes, you can.
Great, thank you. So I do apologize. I was half paying attention to the meeting and half meeting with someone in my office. You asked me to explain the Next Gen 911 transition?
Yes.
Okay. So I don't want to shatter the public's confidence because it proves to be very reliable, but the equipment that 911 nationwide works on is literally 1980s technology. And that technology is becoming much more difficult for the telephone companies to maintain. Because of that, they have expressed a desire to the federal government and to the 911 community to begin transitioning out of that technology. And the move that will come as a result of that is what we commonly refer to as Next Gen 911. One of the primary pieces of that is the movement to what is called IP delivery of 911 calls. And without spending an hour, which we very easily could given the complexity of the technology, the fundamental thing is that instead of 911 calls coming to us on conventional telephone lines, in the future, the plan is that they will come to us in the same type of communication that we get our internet connectivity and computer networks work on, IP connectivity. The way this is going to work in Pennsylvania is all of these calls will be aggregated at the state level and then re-delivered out to the public safety answering points, the 911 centers, on what are called in what is called IP call delivery on an EZNet, which is an emergency services network. It's a highly resilient and redundant network that is intended to interconnect all of the 911 centers in the Commonwealth along with other key facilities. And the plan is that that's how we will get our 911 calls in the future. All of this is still being worked on. The state has let a contract for the provision of these EZNet services. We don't even yet know who that vendor is. The contract is still under negotiation with state authorities, and due to the confidentiality of that, they haven't shared a whole lot with us yet. But all of this is kind of breaking, and I would say within the next 6 months, there'll be a lot more clarity about how this is going to work. The document that's in front of the commissioners today, given the complexity of this transition, is actually somewhat of a benign document. It's merely to allow the state and the consultants to access certain data about our existing 911 connectivity so that they can develop some cost analyses and cost savings projections based on the move to Next Gen 911. So hopefully that's probably more like a 55,000, not a 30,000 foot overview of the transition.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. A lot of times we jump over stuff and we assume we know about it. That the public that are watching our programs or even reading the agenda may not be aware of what that is about. So anytime you see NG 911, we're talking about the next generation of 911. Thank you, Brian. Item C, adopt a resolution authorizing execution of amendment number 1 to the Berks County Coronavirus Emergency Response Funding Grant Agreement from the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency in the amount of $90,197. This is the second round of funding from the grant and will be applied to the first phase of the courtroom technology project. Once again, I want to recognize my colleague, Commissioner Kevin Barnhart.
Thank you, Commissioner Linebaugh. I think we should give credit where credit is due to PCCD, similar to the CTCL grant. Money does come to the county, and I think we need to recognize that in June, we received $213,000 through PCCD for a multitude of safety items, plexiglass, sanitizers, masks for the courts, for the sheriff, and for the jail. And now the second component is the $90,197, which will in part help to upgrade the technology in the courts here in Berks County to make them more safe, do a lot of virtual hearings and things like that, cut down on prisoner transport. The number has blossomed up to about 200 and some a week of virtual hearings, so that we don't have to transport the inmates back and forth to the courtroom. So this has taken hold with many of our criminal court judges, and they want to use this technology far and away and beyond where we are today and use it day to day as we move forward into the next several years. So just want to recognize PCCD for their efforts as well. Thank you, Commissioner Linebaugh.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Item D, adopt a resolution amending the signal booster technical requirements associated with the Berks County Public Safety Radio System and approved through the enactment of Berks County Ordinance to require a Class A channelized BDA signal booster in place of Class B wideband, reducing the risk of interference to third parties unless the applicant can justify the need for a Class B device. The amendment to the signal booster technical requirements is allowed under Section 4 of the ordinance. Item E, adopt a resolution ratifying, confirming, and approving Christine M. Sadler, County Solicitor, execution of a form, two forms, and any and all documents related to the green card process for, and I apologize in advance, Guashankar Shamugan, a Berks County employee. This is an employee in our IS department. Item F, adopt a resolution authorizing execution of attachment 3A to the application for initial certification, recertification of a hazardous materials response team to the Pennsylvania Emergency Management Agency. Item G, adopt a resolution authorizing reappointment of Ronald Heim, West Lawn, Pennsylvania, to the Blighted Property Review Committee for a 2-year term expiring December 31st of 2022. Item H, adopt a resolution authorizing execution of the memorandum of agreement between the Berks County Deputy Sheriff's Association and the County of Berks, amending 19.4 of the existing collective bargaining agreement, changing second shift hours in the patrol division for deputy sheriffs responsible for serving civil process. Item I, adopt a resolution authorizing execution of the banquet event order form with the DoubleTree by Hilton of Reading for use of certain rooms and areas Monday, November 2nd of 2020 and Tuesday, November 3rd of 2020, subject to final review and approval by the Chief Administrative Officer and the County Solicitor's Office. And that, of course, deals with the use of their facilities in preparation for Election Day on Monday and then Election Day. Item 2, a motion authorizing execution of contract agreements and amendments as furnished by the contract coordinator as set forth on the attached listing dated October 27th of 2020. There are a total of 9 contracts. There are 2 with Children and Youth Services, 1 with the Commissioners, 2 with Facilities and Operations, 2 with the Berks County Jail, and 2 with Human Resources. Item 3, a motion to ratify and confirm payments is set forth on the Controller's Office voucher listing dated October the 27th of 2020, and the payment of electronic transfers and employee payroll.
Motion to approve the agenda is presented.
Second.
The motion has been made and seconded to approve the agenda. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The motion is carried. We'll turn now to our Berks County Treasurer, Dennis Adams, for the Treasurer's Report. Dennis.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We had an opening balance today of $192,306,984.99. Balance to clear of $7,303,586.84, leaving us with a balance of $185,003,398.15.
Thank you very much, Dennis. We'll move now to our County Controller, Sandy Graffius, with the Controller's Report.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Total accounts payable, $16,015,476.35. We had a payroll this week. $4,437,585.56 for a grand total of $20,453,061.91.
Thank you very much, Sandy. We'll move now to our Chief Administrative Officer, Ron Seaman, for your comments.
Thank you, Commissioner. I have nothing to offer at this point in time.
Thank you. Commissioner Kevin Barnhart.
Thank you, Commissioner Leinbach, and everyone who's joined us today. I have two items to cover, one from Co-County Wellness. There will not be a report this week because they're transitioning to the new system. Had one training session for our tracers Tuesday, two more are set for tomorrow, and they expect to go live with the new CTMS system on Thursday. For now, they are busy. Line lists continue to come in from more schools and daycare centers in particular, and playing catch up with the contacts, getting us to later than we would like. Good news is that the Department of Health has hired some additional case investigators. So hopefully come mid-November, data will get to us in a more timely fashion. I will try to do one final report out of SharePoint early next week, and then all the information will be coming out of CTMS. So they're busy at Co-County Wellness. Very important that I just wanted to extend to the people on the call today. On Tuesday at our budget ops meeting, the board agreed to fund $4,561,417.71 in CARES Act money to public health, public safety, municipalities, authorities, and the not-for-profit community. There were 128 applications that were reviewed and accepted out of 140 applications. And in addition to that, out of the $38 million received through CARES Act funding, we also approved up to $508,000 to reopen the Convention Center Authority in a safe fashion come early part of next year. We approved a modified amount of money, not out of CARES Act money, but out of the general fund for downtown revitalization efforts in our Main Street communities of $188,000. And we also approved funding COCA's a response magazine and 50,000 postcards to go out to the community to alert people about the services that are available for folks with substance use disorders of $21,700. So I've said this time and time again since middle of July, that $38 million was not nearly enough. We wish we had more money, but as you can see, that balance is going down very steadily, and it won't be probably by mid-November or so, we will be down to a zero balance in anticipation of either another funding bill from the federal government or the possibility of the money that was retained by the state maybe coming to the counties, which we don't have assurance that's going to happen. There's the expectation the state may in fact keep that $1 billion of CARES Act money for their own expenses. So we may be out there with our $38 million and certainly put it out. I'm sure Commissioner Rivera will more details about the business community, but we've put probably in the neighborhood of 2/3 of the money out on the street. And all of these applicants were notified yesterday via a message through Pam Shoup and her team that they were selected for expenditures of money. So there's still a lot of work behind the scenes with contracts and paperwork and documentation This isn't simply just handing money out to people. There's so many strict requirements, what qualifies, what doesn't qualify. And we want to, again, we think we've hit every aspect of the community. We're sure there may be some others out there, but this was a very thorough process starting in July and basically concluding before the end of the year. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Barnhart. Commissioner Michael Rivera.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Leinbach, and again, thank you, Commissioner Barnhart and Jessica Blauser, Ron, Pam, and all the rest of the team and the volunteers that helped with that CARES Act project. I know it was a lot of days, long days and long hours as well getting that done, so thank you very much. Just want to touch on two things. One is we've allocated up to 1.85, well actually there's $11.85 million for the New Start business grants. Right now, the emails should have started going out to those businesses who qualified for the grant. So if you spoke with anyone or if you're a business owner that did apply, please let them know and be on the lookout for an email from Community First Fund and/or Lendistry as well. The process has not finished yet. There's still some background and due diligence work that they're doing. There's some documentation that needs to be signed by the grantees. So please make sure that these businesses that did apply and are looking out for that email. If they do get the email, then they need to make sure that they do reply in a timely manner. If not, they will not be able to receive the grant. They're trying to move very quickly, but due to the fact that there's almost 500 businesses that are eligible for the program, it will be time consuming till everything is finished vetting and the money starts going out. But the goal is to have everyone completely funded by December 15th. If it can be before that, that would be great, but it will take time because of the amount of businesses that will be receiving the grant. So thank you very much for those who did help get the word out. And the last thing I want to bring up today is I want to thank Pedro Cortez. He's the city manager for the city of Reading. His last day is tomorrow with the city, so I want to thank him for the work that he's done with the city. He was a great partner with the county, wishing him best in the future and his future endeavors, and also looking forward to meeting and working with the new city manager as well, and keeping our relationship as we have been doing with the city, which we have been working great together. There's been great communication, great collaboration. So I want to thank Pedro Cortez for the work he's done, and Mayor Eddie Moran also for being open to working with the county for the betterment of both the city and the county. So thank you very much. And that's all I have. Commissioner Leinbach, back to you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Rivera and Commissioner Barnhart. Just a couple things that I want to touch on. First of all, the elections, and I know we're saying a lot about them, but probably 2020 is going to be remembered for two big things, at least here in Pennsylvania. The first year of mail-in ballots during a extremely contentious presidential election, and COVID-19. It's just those two things have been interconnected, and I'm convinced that the COVID-19 issue has added a lot of stress even into the political arena. But I hope that as people have listened yesterday afternoon to the special program led by Commissioner Barnhart on the election process, what is in place, what the county is doing. You heard a report again today, that you understand, at least the majority of you, that we as county commissioners and as the members of the Board of Elections are not partisan in the work that we are doing. We are focused 100% on fair, transparent, and reliable elections. We believe it's critical that every voter that is a legitimate voter should be able to know that they can cast their vote and that it will be counted as they intended it to be counted. The workers that we have in our elections department are absolutely incredible and putting in a tremendous effort, unlike anything I've seen in the 13 years that I've been here. And it's not something that started in the last couple of weeks. We've talked about this internally. The pressure really ratcheted up in March as the COVID-19 issue hit. There began to be questions about the April election, and very quickly, the April election was pushed off. Dealing with the June 2nd election, nothing has been simple. Nothing has been easy for the people working in the department. And Karen Barsom, our deputy director, and Donna Blatt, our chief registrar, have been doing a great job with the team. And I'm confident that they, along with our roughly 1,200 poll workers on election day, and a couple hundred or more county workers that are going to be helping us with pre-canvassing and counting of ballots on election day, that we will get the job done and it will be done right. I'm proud of our people, and I'm not here taking credit myself. And I can tell you my colleagues would say the same thing. It's all of these people that we continue to highlight that are the ones that deserve the credit. They're the people putting in the work. Two other people that have been really stepping up to the plate in a big way since Debbie Oliveri left the county employment some time ago, our Chief Administrative Officer, Ron Seaman, as well as our solicitor, Christine Sadler, doing the work that needs to be done. Secondly, over to the CARES Act, a lot of the money that has been designated towards businesses, small businesses are our target, and specifically businesses that haven't been able to access CARES money through other programs. And then the various nonprofits, education institutions. I cannot emphasize enough that the commissioners have not played a role in reviewing these applications, determining who applied or who received the money, other than the approval of the final recommendations. That was done by a combination of committees that were set up of related industries and Community First Fund and their team. And we did that intentionally. We did not want people coming to Commissioner Barnhart or Commissioner Rivera, Commissioner Leinbach and say, hey, could you help me out here? I really need this money. Our answer to them was, you have to go through the process. There is a process. New Start is Community First Fund. The other programs had subcommittees, and they are the individuals that reviewed the applications and made the recommendations to the commissioners. And I'm looking at my colleagues right now. I don't believe we reversed a single recommendation, or did we? I see head shaking, no.
You mean the three of us reverse any recommendations? No.
No. Right, we did not. And Pam, I forgot Pam Shupp. Pam's been very involved in the CARES aspect as well. That's important for the public to know. We didn't make a big deal about that up front. We decided that, though, out of the gate, that there was no way we wanted this to become a political football or even viewed as potential favoritism for one entity over another. And that's why the process was put in place. All three of us strongly support that process. That's all that I have. I reserve opportunity for possible comments after public comment. Before we go to public comment, do our row officers have anything they would like to share? Hearing none, I'm going to go to Jess Blauser. Jesse, if you could read the comments that we have today.
Thank you. Crystal Kowalski, why missing? Good morning, commissioners. I was sorry to read that 2 prison staffers have tested positive for COVID-19. Given that the jail population has been allowed to rise to over 800 people, I feel that county workers, the people incarcerated, and the community at large have been unnecessarily placed in danger. The jail population had been reduced to 561 people in June. It has been permitted to rise steadily to a high of 817 last week. This leads me to ask the question, what are the crimes being committed that warrant jail time during a global pandemic when our county is classified at the substantial spread risk level? The answer is not comforting. On one single day, there were 17 people admitted. 4 of those people had felony charges. The other 13 people had misdemeanor charges and summary offenses. 1 weekender is being incarcerated on solely the summary offense of driving on a suspended license. The docket that records his confinement is a traffic docket. There are numerous DUIs, possession charges, and parole violations. There were even 2 people incarcerated for possession of unstamped cigarettes. This coming Monday, Stanley Gracias will face his 3 remaining misdemeanor charges stemming from riding a bicycle around Wyomissing Walmart. I sincerely hope he is not the next person jailed for a non-violent offense. This is simply madness. Madness that is not compatible with your message of do your part, stop the spread. Thank you, Crystal Kowalski, Wyomissing. John Archer, Spring Township. What will be the expected hours of operation at the Election Services Center to perform canvassing operations on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday? Adrian Jadick, Wyomissing. Several weeks ago, Commissioner Leinbach assured us that the Republican Party is in consensus to open mail-in ballots before the November 3rd. In reality, we have seen a concentrated effort by his party to make voting more difficult. While many counties have installed tens of drop boxes, Berks County has only 2. This is not because our commissioners did not have the legal framework to install boxes, but because they don't want to, as they stated on many occasions. This has left many voters with the only option to mail their ballots through USPS. In the same time, there is an alarmingly large amount of ballots that were reportedly mailed out but never made it to the voter, while others were simply not mailed out at all. All this debacle has resulted in ballots being mailed back very late. Too many voters do not know how to track their ballot online. As a consequence, they are not aware that their vote is still not recorded despite them having mailed it back weeks ago. Although we have a favorable Supreme Court of the United States decision yesterday, allowing counting of ballots postmarked by November 3rd, it is clear by now that Trump and his enablers will challenge the ballots arriving late. Commissioners, I ask you to inform the voters to cast a provisional ballot if their vote was not recorded by Election Day, or we risk being faced with thousands of votes being canceled or not recorded. You are responsible for the numerous goofs that may well result in a gross mismanagement of the voting process. We must block the now visible Republican efforts to suppress votes. Becky Ellis, Reading, PA. Good morning, Commissioners. Today, I'm addressing you in the interest of public health and safety on 2 issues, with one being the issue of lead contamination and the ongoing remediation and removal in Hamburg. After finding the document labeled as untitled on Google 2 days ago, when doing a search of Karcher Creek Park, Berks County Recorder of Deeds, I now have a better understanding of the Commissioner's stance on why you do not want to advocate for reopening the park. However, a potential health risk exists. As I have learned while searching remediation versus removal efforts, Removal is the only way for the lead cleanup to be done correctly, as per the following document filed in April of 2019 by the United States Environmental Protection Agency. This document indicates that the remediation of Karcher Creek failed, which is the creek that flows from Karcher Creek Lake through Hamburg, and as a result, the total project ceiling, if approved, will be $14,587,677. I'm asking that the same energy and advocacy by Berks County Commissioners in addressing the Exide lead contamination in Muhlenberg Township and Laureldale be applied in addressing the Exide lead contamination in Hamburg and Windsor Township. The second issue that I wanted to raise today is that of the 13 children and adults that are being imprisoned against their will at the Berks County Detention Center, who were potentially exposed to COVID-19 on October 9th by an employee at the facility who tested positive for COVID-19 on October 12th. The Berks County Commissioners have the power to end this needless suffering of families by releasing them from the facility. As one of the detained parents said about the situation, after being in this place for over 7 months, almost all hope has faded away as we watch our babies unable to thrive because they are kept in this space of despair. We ask the people and leaders of the United States to please not let us die in the center. Please give us a chance to be released with our children. The trauma and the pain are unbearable. Please don't let us die in here and deport us back to our deaths. Please release us with our children so we can go be with our sponsors and loved ones. This matter is about humanity, common decency, and doing the right thing. Please do the right thing and help these families by freeing them from this needless and inhumane prison today. In the words of Joaquin Levine, a presidential candidate that I had the pleasure of meeting while living in Chile, South America, Viva el Cambio. Essentially, I'm asking that as the elected, authentic, and servant leaders of Berks County, you live the change by doing what is normally right, morally right, and within your capacity as Berks County Commissioners do so. Thank you. Jane Palmer, why I'm missing. Gentlemen, I applaud the progress you've made in making sure voting is easy, safe, and trustworthy for every Berks Countyans. Especially the second drop box, the live feed during the count on election day, and cleanliness measures. However, I am deeply disappointed in your refusal to accept PA votes offered for free bilingual texting to voters. Yes, voters are inundated and some are annoyed, but 1, that's because Pennsylvania is so important, and 2, it's trivial compared to the value such of nonpartisan prompt would offer. Having participated in multiple GOTV phone banks in the past few weeks, I can assure you that the voters we do reach are deeply grateful for clear, last-minute information. I know you've done a lot to disseminate voter information, but this texting program requires nothing from you and will go a long way to reaching those folks, especially Spanish speakers, who still need to know. Kristen Dimovitz, Center Township. Dear Commissioners, I am reaching out today to ask about the Berks County Family Detention Center and about your plans to free the families. The detention center is currently holding a few families that are just attempting to immigrate to the U.S. Families should not be detained for seeking protection and legally do not have to be. Many have been there locked up for months. A parent detained there recently said, after being in this place for over 7 months, almost all hope has faded away as we watch our babies unable to thrive because they are kept in this place of despair. We ask the people and leaders of the United States to please not let us die in the center. Please give us a chance to be released with our children. The trauma and pain are unbearable. Please don't let us die in here or deport us back to our deaths. Please release us with our children so we can go be with our sponsors and loved ones. On top of this, a worker at the center has now contracted COVID-19 and now the families are at even greater risk if they have not unknowingly caught COVID-19 already. Over the years, we've seen the dehumanization of these families who are just trying to get a better life, and recently the threat to their lives has increased because of the lack of COVID-19 protection in these centers. Detaining families and children is inhumane and casts a dark shadow over our county. You three have the opportunity to trilaterally shut down the detention center. One of you has already come out publicly against the center. My question is, what are your plans moving forward to deal with the situation there? Do you have a timeline in place to release the families and shut down the center? And if not, why? Melvia Ahmed, why missing? Good morning, commissioners. I'm asking Brian Gottschall, in the new system, how long does it take for a 911 call process from call to state to dispatcher again? Is the reception of the call automated? Is dispersing calls to dispatchers automates? Or am I misunderstanding and the process is just direction system to dispatchers? David Del Negro, West Reading. Wanted to drop in and thank all three of you for your work getting Berks ready and safe for the election. I didn't always agree with every decision, but reading your explanations both here and in local papers helped explain your rationales. Proud of my local government. Roxandra Jadick, why missing? Commissioners, you just told us that with only 3 working days before election, as many as 32% of mail ballots have not been returned. You also told us that during primaries, that number dropped to 15%. You are not telling us how this compares to other counties and other states that vote by mail. Even if the number will drop to 15% by Tuesday, this still translates in some 13,000 votes lost. This is an extremely large number of unrecorded votes considering that PA is a swing state. Today's 32% is a large number, and you have the obligation to use any means at your disposal to inform voters whose ballots were not recorded to come and vote in person with or without a ballot in hand. We simply cannot consider 13,000 or more unrecorded votes in Berks as normal. Jess, Royer Spring Township. As has been noted by the commissioners, the drop-off locations for mail-in and absentee ballots have been heavily utilized, demonstrating how important this service is to voters. Thankfully, Berks County has established a robust mail-in and absentee vote processing operation. Unfortunately, though, this approach to counting mail-in and absentee ballots as soon as quickly as possible has not been taken across the state. Most notably in Cumberland County. Cumberland County has stated that they will not even begin processing those ballots submitted ahead of Election Day until the day after Election Day. This will lead to an entirely preventable delay in our overall results and will result in confusion and frustration. If you, the Berks County Commissioners, have any contacts in Cumberland County, please reach out to them and encourage them to start counting the mail-in ballots on Election Day and not the day after, as is their current plan. Additionally, as we have been seeing both the numbers of overall COVID-19 cases and the positivity rate climbing, I again am calling on the county to end their contract with Immigration and Customs Enforcement and shut down the Berks County Residential Center. Surely you can recognize the risk to those asylum seekers who are being held there regardless of your views on the morality of the United States immigration process. Thank you. And that's the end of the public comment.
Thank you very much, Jesse. Appreciate you stepping in. For those that may wonder, when you're working virtually, sometimes there are challenges, and Mary Buer was unable to get in to see the questions. So Jesse Blauser, Commissioner Barnhart's assistant, jumped in, and really appreciate that. Brian Gottschall, would you like to address the 911 comment?
Sure. Thanks, Commissioner. I'm actually excited to address the comment. Most of the time, our citizenry just cares they dial 911 and the call goes through. They don't have much interest in the meat of how things work, so I'm excited to talk about it. First of all, I did provide a link that I think our IT department's going to publish to 911.gov. Very simply, the number is 911.gov. That is DOT's website. You might ask, why DOT? Well, at the federal level, the 911 system falls under Department of Transportation. And that is a publicly accessible website that goes into this in far more detail than we could possibly go into here on the call. But I appreciate the caller's question because it helps to point out that I may have given a misperception about this process. The process actually does not involve like a centralized call center. So it's not like you're going to dial 911. It's going to get answered at a big call center at the state level, and then you have to explain what's going on and then get transferred to the county. I didn't mean to give that impression. The process of statewide call delivery is really a behind the scenes technical process that's very dependent on geographic information systems, location services as we think about them, to route the call to the proper 911 center. So the transition or the transfer of the call through the system is as instantaneous as it is today. I believe that I would go out on a limb here and say that it actually will create efficiencies in the process that's being expressed as a concern. Today, when you make a call from a wireless device, from a cell phone, the possibility exists that your call gets routed to the wrong county, and in that other county, they then have to answer the call, kind of understand what you're calling about, that you really should have ended up at the other county's 911 center, and then do a manual transfer of that call to the other 911 center. The intent of one of the intents of Next Gen 911 is that confusion in the process goes away, because these calls don't get delivered on analog 911 trunks to the wrong 911 center. They're routed appropriately, and in the event that they are delivered erroneously to the wrong 911 center, unlike today where sometimes we have direct connections to other 911 centers, other times we literally have to look up a number and transfer that call to the other 911 center like any conventional transferred telephone call would get handled. In the Next Gen environment, because we're all tied together through this IP call delivery network, we can very easily transition that call from one center to another center. So I hope that helps to address the citizen's inquiry and put to rest any confusion I may have created in leading people to believe that there's going to be kind of another level of bureaucracy involved, if you will. This is a technical process from state to county.
Thank you very much, Brian, for that update. I'm going to just address two items quickly. I'll let Commissioner Barnhart jump in on the election. On Kircher Creek, Becky, I happen to have seen your email within the last day or two where you delineated the information you found. This is something that we've been talking about for several years. We've highlighted the 1999 cleanup that you also noted that was a remediation and not a removal. And that issue came back in, and I don't have the dates in front of me, but 2012, 2013, because it wasn't removed, it was remediated. I noted that when the current cleanup was underway, the County of Berks invested in a consultant to work with Fish and Boat. Fish and Boat chose not to utilize our consultant services. Secondly, we told Fish and Boat we will pay up to $200,000 of the cleanup, but we need to see the paperwork and modules that demonstrate everything was done in accordance with DEP. Fish and Boat never provided that information to the county. Subsequently, the county has not paid and is not going to pay the $200,000. We believe that there were options beyond this partial remediation. One of them would have been to literally fence off that area. If they didn't want to, if DEP didn't want to come in and remove everything, they could have fenced it off, and that has been done in a number of other areas. But for whatever reason, that was not accepted. And so you have an ongoing issue. I don't know if Christine Sadler is on. She is not. She was in a court hearing this morning, but I can ask Christine at a future meeting to address this, because we did relatively recently reach out to Fish and Boat about concerns with Kircher Creek. Hopefully she can share that communication at a future commissioners meeting. The second thing, just to correct, and I know this is out there, the individual that tested positive for COVID-19 at the BCRC was not a county employee, nor were they an employee of the facility. They were an outside vendor. They were the last there on October the 9th. And all of the CDC and DOH guidelines are being followed with that facility to protect both residents and staff. Do my colleagues have any comments you'd like to make?
I do on the election questions or statements and
Sure.
comments. To John Archer's question about canvassing Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, it's our expectation to start around 8 o'clock. We'll have a definite time on election night because it depends on how quickly we get through the process at the DoubleTree. But till we get the equipment moved over here, I would say probably Wednesday, maybe closer to a 9 a.m. start, but figure 8 o'clock Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Again, we do need to give people some rest and refreshment. We can't have people working around the clock. We have to give them a breather. Again, that's going to be counting the military overseas and the absentees and mail-ins that were postmarked or in the boxes on election day, as well as postmarked on election day. This will not be a live feed from BCTV. It will be made available to people who want it after it's recorded. It's not a live feed. We cannot encourage people to go out and go to the polls and fill out a provisional ballot. That's not in our area. We don't do that. We follow election code laws to the T. And we also can't encourage people to walk in and vote in person with or without a ballot. Just apply for a mail-in ballot in the primary or general election and change their mind. They may not be voting. We can't get into the minds of 13,000 plus people hypothetically and figure out why they didn't complete their mail-in ballot. We don't know that. So you're asking things that are beyond the scope of our ability, and it's everyone's right to vote. So if they want to vote, they have to do it properly, have to do it timely. And if they requested a mail-in ballot or an absentee ballot, then I would have expected them to complete that and either mail it or drop it off the drop box locations. Again, we mentioned this and emphasized this yesterday. You can't use your polling location as a place to drop off your completed ballot. It's not the intent of voting in person to walk in and drop off your ballot. If you surrender your ballot, that's a little bit of a different story. You have to sign a statement that you are basically bringing in and spoiling your ballot, which will not be counted. All you're asking for in theory in a lot of these questions is somebody can vote twice, and this is not going to happen. We've also had people want to know why they can't vote twice. Gee, can I do a mail-in ballot and vote in person? And we've had people who actually literally said, I'd like to change my vote. I know I dropped my mail-in ballot in a box, but can I change my vote? I'm going to say one thing. Are you kidding me? Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Barnhart. I'm trying not to smile, but I haven't had a commissioner end with that line in the past. And I will tell you, I'm not laughing at Commissioner Barnhart. A lot of people would be shocked to read some of the questions that we're getting. And part of this is, keep in mind, this is the first time mail-in ballots no excuse absentee, if you will, has been in place in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Also keep in mind the rules revolving around mail-in ballots are fairly limited. What was done in Act 77 was not carefully thought out. And so, for instance, the suggestion that we tell Cumberland County you should start counting your ballots on election morning, well, guess what? The law doesn't require that. That's not a question for commissioners. That's a question for the legislature and the governor. And look, these things are going to be addressed. They're going to be addressed by the legislature and the governor as we go through these things. There were changes made in the spring. More changes have been discussed. Supreme Court's weighed in, made some changes. This is a process. Our job as commissioners and as the 3 members of the Board of Elections is to do what we believe is right to protect the security, the transparency, and the reliability of the election here in Berks County. Commissioner Rivera, do you have any comments you'd like to make?
Yeah, I just have one, and it's in reference to the texting in Spanish. And I'm speaking for myself, but I received, I don't know, maybe 10 to 15 texts a week in reference to the elections, and that's why I did not want another text to go out. But from what I have understood, the group that wants to send a text out, it's their text list. It's not, the information is not coming from the county. The phone numbers are not coming from the county. You know, so if I understand that it's important to get the information out, you can still get that information out. It doesn't necessarily have to come from the county. So I don't think we need to blame at least part of my decision is to saying, well, we can't send the information out because the county didn't want to help or to give the okay to send it out in the county's name. Information can still go out because we're not providing the service or the phone numbers either for that text information. You know, so it's something that the organization can do and send that information out in Spanish. You know, they can feel free to do so.
That's an excellent point, Commissioner Rivera. We didn't tell them they can't do that. We simply said we don't want another text going out to voters from the county of Berks. People have been inundated. If this organization wants to put the text out, that's entirely up to them. We've not discouraged that. So I appreciate you bringing up that key point. Is there anything else for the good of the order? If not, before we accept a motion, just note we're going to be going right in to the election board meeting. If you want to join us, just go to countyofberks.com. On the homepage, upper right-hand corner, click on meetings. And when you go to the meeting page, it's the item at the bottom of the page. You can click on the link and join us for the election board meeting. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
The meeting stands adjourned. Thank you.